Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to my Friday watercolor sessions. Today I want to finish the last page in this Midori sketchbook that I had for years. So I started it back in 2018, which is, it's so hard to sometimes think that a sketchbook takes 5 years, but I haven't been using it consistently. I had periods where I used it quite heavily in 2018. Then I took a big break because I was working in other sketchbooks, came back to it, and then recently this year I have been sort of working towards the end of it, and I will do a flip through because it's so exciting to finish a sketchbook, especially one that has taken so long to do. So today I think I'm going to create one of my moving doll illustrations. I've done this one and I put it on Instagram, I think. I absolutely love her. She's so cute and has that sass to her, and that's generally what my illustrations are all about. And the one that I really enjoyed before that was on the 15th of May, so back in spring. And I really liked her character as well. I love to induce character into my illustrations and change them up a little bit as I go. So here you will notice on the face I haven't done much work, where usually I focus most of my attention on the face, and typically would do a lot of kind of eyeshadow detailing. Here, however, because I had all these chords and the detail focusing on her moving motion, then I decided to kind of leave her face slightly more bare. She has enough contrast with the red lipstick and the strong black eyeliner, and I also kind of mirrored that with her outfit as well. Today I think I will just do a straight pose, and I'm thinking of a cute little dress, and that is about it. So I will focus on the face again today, but do let me know if you're interested in any sort of specific tutorial that I could show you. So for those who are new, I'm just going to explain that I use my moving doll stamp set to create all of these illustrations. I have a few different stamp sets in my shop. Let me just do a quick shop update for you. So I still have the lavender, a couple of the lavenders left from the Wildflower collection. Then I have the botanical stamp set, and I have got a few of the Swatch Joy Color Theory and Color Palette stamp sets, which are all for swatching and playing with your watercolor mixes and so on. And then I have also the FOTD stamp set, which was the first original one, and then I created the body to kind of to go with it, so that you can still use some of these facial parts or aspects in this face here, or you could change up the face shape completely. This one also have brows, different sets of lips, individual lashes, set of full lashes, and also a bun and a little heart tattoo. So you could do loads of different things with it, and you can combine them or use them separately and just have loads of fun. So in the moving body you can do a pose that's sort of facing you, but you can also play around with side poses and make the hairline and the face shifted to that side to make it look like the face is slightly turned. So you can do that. I have loads of different tutorials. There's a lovely little playlist that you can, well, it's not little anymore, it has loads of videos in there, probably hundreds, that I guide you through on how to create these illustrations. Also, I am trying to play with the shape, so you can create slightly more bigger shapes or slimmer shapes, and oftentimes I use this as my guideline and then just explore beyond it. So if I wanted to create a more curvaceous figure, then I would just kind of expand those lines, but have this as guidance, so to speak. And the rest are already sold out. So this was my floral stamp set with the flower details that can also be incorporated with the faces. I'll show you a couple of examples in my old illustrations. This one here, for example, so you can do loads of fun things. Oh, this one is from the wildflowers, so these would be the wildflower collection, but I think these are old wildflower. I had somewhere with the botanical stamp set as well. I wasn't intending to do a flip through. A flip through is still coming, but I just want to show you. Oh, here's a nice little wreath, Christmas wreath I've done with the florals stamp set. So things like that you can do. Kind of creating floral clusters and combining them with fashion illustrations. So here I'm showing how you can do sort of Alice bands with that in mind, with florals, and have loads of fun. So here I used the little heart tattoo for her kind of earrings, statement earrings. So there you go. Do let me know, by the way, if you're interested in the floral stamp set. I might be able to bring it back, and otherwise I still have the botanical stamp set, and they can be also combined and used together as well. All of my products are currently on Black Friday sale, so if you're interested, check it out. They're all discounted. I have never discounted any of my stamp sets since I have released them, only if there was like a testing one where maybe a couple of pieces were missing or something like that. But the original stamp sets, I have never ever discounted them. So this is the first time I'm doing it for the Black Friday sale. And if you're interested, like I said, go and check it out. It won't be permanent, so it's just for the Black Friday. Also, you'll find the handmade watercolors and ephemera and stencils and other things. So do have a look. I have a wide range of products now, and it's all available on my online shop, alyonacreates.com. I'm happy to see you there. So what I'm going to use is, as always, the face, some of the facial features from this set as well, and the neck, the forward-facing body parts, so the torso and the pelvis, and also I will be using the thigh. And I want to try something different today, because when I elongate the legs, what I tend to do is just stamp them with a big gap. And sometimes if you're a beginner, it's kind of probably wouldn't be the easiest for you to connect the two. So what I'm going to do is I'll try to show you a slightly easier version where I will stamp the bottom half, so the calf of the leg. I will stamp it a number of times, 2 or 3 times, to connect them to make the whole length, and then show you how you turn that into elongated piece of the bottom leg. Also, I haven't mentioned, but I have these really super comfortable, ergonomic, round stamping blocks, which are perfect for all of my stamp sets. I think with the exception of the large swatching stamp element, but everything else is perfectly fine. Okay, so what I do is I start with the head, because that gives me a good idea how long I want the body to be, and also how tall I want the hair to be, because it will be using the top half of the paper. So let's say about there. The next thing I'm going to do is take the neck. So that's the neck right under her lip. In terms of the ink, I always use the same ink, and I have been using the same ink for years. and it's the Distress Ink by Tim Holtz in Tattered Rose. For those of you who have been following my channel for many years, you would know it off by heart now. But I like to stick to things that work, and I don't like to experiment once I find something that works. Okay, now the torso. So the torso is like a triangle, which again is just the guideline, so that I connect straight under the neck. As you will see, all the proportions are not realistic. They are doll-like and fashion illustration inspired, so just to make it more illustrative and fun. And then I will use, so I've got a few options for the tie. So I've got these kind of slightly different shaped, slightly fuller, slightly less. This is more for beginners who are not comfortable with changing around their lines, but otherwise you can just play with it. So straight legs, that's it. I'm not gonna do anything today. So there they are. And now what I want to focus on is this long part. So the long parts are here at the bottom. So I think I will stamp 2 to make it super long, like that. And you will see how I will connect them in an illustration. So it looks a bit odd right now, but don't worry. Then for the ballet pumps, we've got them right at the end. Super easy. Think which way you want to face them. Do you want to face them inside, which would look weird because then your knees need to go inside, or the figure's knees. So I tend to pop them outside, so like that, heels towards each other, facing inside. Okay, here we go. And let's finish now with the forearms, which would be all of these options, but again, you can combine any of these elements really. If you want a shorter forearm, you go here. If you want a longer one, you go there. So just, like I said, use these as a blueprint, like just the starting point. So again, these will be just hanging down a little bit, and we want long arms because we have super long legs now. The limbs will be long. So you can see this is where her knees will start and her calves will be extremely long, but that's the point of illustration. It's not about realism. And then her arms just hang down. I never focus on fingers or hands because I don't like drawing them. I find that the more I try, the less nice they look. So I just leave it all together. Okay, the face. The face obviously is very important. With the face, I always start with the lips first. So take the lips and think about proportions. Now I have loads of tutorials talking about facial proportions, where you can place the eyes and how that will affect the look of the face if you put them really high up or middle of the face, etc. Now here I'm talking about also the hair, obviously showing you, but you know, you can do all sorts of different things. Also play with the eyes, how you tilt them, eyebrows, and all sorts of things there. So lips, for my liking, I always start quite low in the face because I always like a very big forehead. And then the eyes, you can do them, like I said, straight, or I like them nice and sassy, so I tilt them and create the cat eye look. Like so. The reason I use a nude ink is obviously so that we can just have something that won't be coming through or showing through later. It's actually a really quick process. It took a lot longer because I was explaining things and I was doing the shop update, but when you are working in your sketchbook, not doing any of those things, it's actually a really quick and pleasant process that eliminates the drawing part for you. I mean, you will still draw over it to connect everything, but the initial setting stone of the illustration, that's done really quickly. So now think about what would you like to do. So lately I actually try to go with a pencil first, line everything out, then I go on with a permanent ink pen, and then I erase the pencil lines, just because certain things can be a little bit difficult. So I'm just going to draw out the body shape here. I'm connecting these things. Just think about the body physique. So the shoulder is obviously round, so you create a rounder shoulder over here, and then the armpits, you leave a little bit of a gap. Now this is also where you can play around and create your own shape. So I'm going to go around, and you can see I'm not very good with both sides when I'm drawing, so I tend to make mistakes, and if I used a fountain pen here, then that mistake you can't really correct. So that's why these days I like to use a pencil. Okay, so let me just bring you in closer and show you what we have so far. So you can see I'm not following the exact lines, although you can, but I'm leaving some gaps like that. Now, as I said before, I want it to be a dress. So I'm just going to follow our figure like so, and then just kind of create some ruffles, I'm thinking. Like that. So that's her dress, and you can see also how I am adding a bit of volume onto her hips. When you have something that's already stamped, it's easier to do that. And then I'm going to follow the line to a certain extent of her leg, and then round about here I'm going to go in like so. I don't get the legs usually right in the first go, so I might go in again. So here we go. So here's what I've done. I bypassed this part and just connected it like that. And if I wanted to do a little bit of correcting on here, I might just go over and do it like so, which would be helpful for the time when I'm doing the fountain pen. Okay, so that's her body, and I usually leave it at that. I don't need to line everything on the face. I usually do that with the fountain pen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my fountain pen and line these lines out. Actually, let me see. For the dress, I just love, it's kind of like a low cut. And then I'll take away the pencil lines. So I'll start with the neck. For this bit I do need to rotate things. So I tend to do a line and then stop, because if I don't, my lines tend to be quite wonky. Alright, now we do this side of the body. like so. Okay. Now let's focus on the dress part. If you don't have like both sides perfectly lined out, don't worry, because you will be using watercolor and some pencils later that you can help yourself with. So here I'm just going to follow this line. And now the ruffles, actually I'm going to just do my own thing, I decided. That often happens as well. I just look at the bit that I've done with the pencil and I kind of like it or don't like it, and then go from there. Okay, legs. Now that's the tricky one because it's such a long one line and I need it to get right. So first do the thighs, get up to the kneecap roughly. And then also another problem is when your fountain pen is drying up. So these parts of the legs are super delicate and I kind of want them to come into absolute nothing. And then I'm also going to add a heel to the ballet pump. Okay. So this part needs to be a bit thinner now. It's always hard to make both legs look exactly the same. So we'll see what we have to work with once I erase the lines. I'm also going to go ahead and do the face now too. Notice how I don't have any eyebrows in place just yet. That's something I tend to either draw in with a pencil, or I might do it now or later. That really doesn't have, like, I don't have a rule for it. I'm noticing how the light is really going now, so I think I'll have to pull out my studio lights for the next part. So let me do the eyebrows now. I think you can use some of those eyebrows if you struggle to draw them. I don't always like how they come out, so if you want an eyebrow that's stamped, then they are in my FOTD stamp set. You also have a Frida inspired monobrow in there, which is quite fun too. So that's it. And then in terms of hair, let's see, I want to do something slightly different, maybe like a less of a fringe. Oh yeah, let's do one of those Gatsby type of a hairstyle. And I think, all right, let me do a funny kind of bun shape here and a bit more. So I want them to be more angular. I think she looks quite cute. So now to the next part, which is erasing the lines and then using watercolor to start with. And then I'll show you what I do for skin if I want something really quick. And also it's fun because you can also go darker or lighter with just two colors. Okay, so here we go. We have this girl here. So what I tend to use for a quick erasing session is this Derwent rechargeable eraser. Really love it because it's so fast and quick. So I'm realizing it's causing a shadow now. Let me pull out my second studio light. Okay, I hope it's slightly better now. I mean, you'll still get a shadow, but it is what it is. So it's just so quick, and because it's pointing, you know, you don't have like a big eraser, so you can just go over the lines easier. Even when it's like a stubborn pencil line, you just press a little bit, and because it's rotating so fast, it will take it off. this brush has been so useful in my art. I don't ever use fingers to wipe anything off because, you know, when you're working, I mean, look at that. I already have some black on there. When you're working with anything art related, any art supplies, you'll pick up pigments so quickly, and just, you know, wiping things like dirt on your paper, I'm just not into that. Okay, so next thing we have is, let me just show you how I do skin tone that is foolproof. So this works every time, and for that I use Daler-Rowney FW Raw Sienna and System 3 Burnt Sienna. So we have artist grade, student grade. I don't see much of a difference in what I have been using it, but basically I just drop 1 drop of raw sienna, give them a little mix because these are acrylic, so you'll have pigment settling down, and then another drop. You really don't need that much. They're so strong and pigmented, but also you're working on a small area as well. So I'm going to use super small brush for this. So what we're going to do is mix the 2 colors, and actually I wanted to show you different skin tones you can achieve. If I can find my sketchbook here that I can use for practice purpose. Okay, so we have got a number of different things. So we've got like really milky color here. If I add more water to it, I'm just going to get some watercolor effects really. So you can see, there we are. Or we can get some more orange in there, or darker colors. And if you want to darken this as well, you need something like umber. Then if you want to lighten it, you also can go in more with the raw sienna, or the mix of 2, and this is obviously way too pigmented or way too opaque. So this is like a skin tone I like to use for Caucasian skin that has been in the sun. So more kind of like caramel tone. But I'm just trying to think how to show you how to deepen the skin tone. Just let me get another color. So like a umber, raw umber would be a good one, but I also have sepia that also works quite well for deepening the skin tone. So just a tiny little drop. I'll show you what it looks like on its own, which you want to warm it up. So at that point I would just use a bit of this color mixed in with some of the umber, so we get different skin tones. I'll show you when we get darker as well. So this is quite milky now, but here we go. And then you also potentially want to add a little bit of red into there. So let's see, I've got some pink here, but I don't think this is the right type of color. So no, you want something with very dark skin tone. I like red in there. Let me just find another color. So the color I had in mind is Red Earth, which is gorgeous. And when you mix that in with a very dark brown, kind of makes it look like the skin is blushing. So this is a bit too red. There. That's just looking really nice. You can also then work with your lighter shade, so you can start with a lighter wash and then deepen it as you go. So there is a variety of different skin tones you can create, and I've lost now my sepia, so I'm just gonna put another drop here nearby. There, nice and rich skin tone. Beautiful. And then you can also add yellow into that as well, if you wanted to make it more kind of opaque or creamy. So there you go. If you wanted more pinker tones, then Red Earth is a great color just on its own, watered out, and with a little mix of the other colors too. Okay, so you can just carry on mixing whatever color you like. I'm going to go into mix of everything really. So I'm going to start with my, this is way too much pigment here, too opaque. So I'm going to use a tissue to pick up some if I need. I don't like it to be too opaque. I like to use the acrylic inks like watercolor in this sort of a example. Also, you need to keep in mind you need to work relatively quickly, because acrylic ink, once that dries, it dries, so you won't be able to lift it much. So if you have never worked with acrylic ink, it'll take you a little bit of time to try and adjust to it or understand it, but it's not too complicated. It's not as complicated as oil paint or something like that. Okay, so here we go. That's our top of the body done, and then for the legs, I'm going to do the same. Just do small areas first, and then pull the color out. Like so, and then move on to the other part of the leg. If you made a mistake somewhere, you can use this acrylic ink to correct it, because it's super opaque when it's when it doesn't have much water in there. So I'm also going to add a little bit more of the paint. This is quite delicate because it's so small, the areas that we're working on, but you don't have to. You can make your legs shorter and a little bit wider, and that way it'll be easier to fill in the color. So also I'm going to add a little bit more darkness around the knees. So here it already dried up, so what I can do is just add more of the paint and straight away water without waiting much, and then you can see where you'd like to add a touch more color, and you basically can do that and then soften it out straight away. So like that. Okay, now we're gonna go in here, in there, in here and in there, just for emphasis of the shadowing. And I actually might leave it like that, nice and strong line, and then also do that right here too. And a little bit in the inside of her décolleté with some softness. There we go. Okay, that's her body done. Now the same thing I would do, but just start with a more watery mix for her face. So with her face, I'm just going to do a base lay and then I'll go in with watercolors and other mediums. I find that acrylic, because it settles and it dries, you won't kind of disturb it once it's dried and all settled. Whereas if you do the first layer with watercolor, what tends to happen is that by layering it later, you can almost remove some of the colors that you already set in there. So doing acrylic is almost better. But again, it's all relative, so whatever you like, whatever look you like, try different options and see what works for you best. The main thing here is work quickly with acrylics, because you don't want any lines on the face. When something dries up, it dries up, that's it. You can't smoothen it. So like here, for example, that's all dried up on the side. So what I would do is just go in with a bit of more color. Like that. Okay, so that's enough for my base layer. I'm going to pull out this color now into the rest of the face. And then I'm going to approach it with watercolor. For the next step, you need to make sure that the acrylic has fully dried, which it has, because I've used now the heat tool. And now I'm going to put a little Bible mat behind, which I only use for this purpose. It's super good if you're going to press with pencils, although at this point it really doesn't matter if I make any indentations. No pages left underneath. So, but generally I kind of like the feeling of pushing a pencil against something harder. It just creates a more solid line in my view. But we get to the pencil a bit later. For now, I just want to show you how I would do the face. So I'm going to carry on now with the watercolor. And you can see I have some lovely colors going on here, which are really very much makeup colors for me. I'm going to go into a dark color here. And I'm going to start layering a few things. So with watercolor, it's easier to work. You don't need to rush as much because it doesn't dry like acrylic does. So you can be like, you know, just doing it in your own time really. And you also create more watercolor effects as well. So this color I'm using right now is Schmincke Gold Deep, I believe. And it's got lovely yellow base tone, but also it's kind of super rich and has this like a brown tone to it. I love colors that have oomph to them. And also to top that up, I'm going to go into a red oxide and I'm gonna let it do its own thing. I'm not gonna worry about it. See what happens. I might get some really interesting effects. Okay, so that is it. And then I'm going to do a little bit on her forehead, again going back into Schmincke Gold. Just adding a bit more interest, a bit more color in a way. So into the nose, I'm not going yet. I'm just going to leave it between the eyebrows simply because otherwise it's all going to leak into one another and become one big mess. Okay, so then I do the same thing on the other side of the face. Just pulling it down slightly. Squeezing a bit of the water out of the brush when I need more control. And then just pulling things out. So with watercolor, you'll get these all sorts of lovely effects, and I'm not bothered by them in the slightest. In fact, I think this is what adds the illustration, its character. Before I go into the nose and the lower part of the face, I'm going to actually take a little bit of red oxide just into this line here and also pull it down slightly. Okay, I'm going to dry it and then we'll come back. On the camera it looks like my girl has jaundice, but there isn't as much of yellow that I can see with my own eyes here, so I think it's just pulling out the color a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into quinacridone gold and just make a little line here to connect the two nostrils, and then with a little bit of water just softening it out, so it's like a button nose really. And then whatever bit of color I have on the brush, I'm just going to connect it with the rest of the face and also the lower face as well. I need it to be a lot lighter, so I'm just going to play with the mixture, see how much pigment I've got here, and just go around her lips, as this was the lightest part of her face, looking a bit odd. And then now that this is wet, I'm going to go into a pink color, and I have a few options. Okay, I'm going to go into Rhodonite pink, which is more of a muted pink, but I think it will look beautiful with this illustration. So it's not flowing as much, which is fine. Sometimes I like the cheek to be a bit more flowier. Sometimes I like it to be more kind of like a shape. So just play around with whatever you prefer. This is it for, in fact, I'm just going to add a little bit more color on the tip of the ear here and there, just to create a shade, and just pull it out a little bit, not throughout the entire ear. Okay, in terms of the hair, I like doing a number of things. Sometimes I like to line it out and add a bit of color on top, and so like this. I'm thinking maybe I should do that today, so I'm gonna just line it out, make these look like hair strands. This part of the illustration is actually quite therapeutic in itself, so I'm just following some of those lines. On one side you have just a kind of round line, well, just curved line, and then here you've got more curves, so you need to bring the two together somehow. And then here just make whatever shapes you like. I tend to go from center to center, and then the same way on the other side, and then kind of connect the middle as well, like that. Here we go. Now for the next part, it is essential that the hairline is completely dry. So before we do that, I'll leave it. I think I might actually add some pencil into her eye. So I need a very, very pointy point, and I'm going to use my sharpener. I've done a video on all of my sharpeners I have tried and which ones I would recommend. This is my top recommendation, and I think I might include it in my gift guide, thinking of it. Someone just asked me the other day if I'm going to do a gift guide. Honestly, I wasn't planning to, because I don't have the time right now. It's been so busy. I'm just catching up now with final things before Christmas kicks in. Shop update, and also online course that I have filmed about colorful countryside. So basically I wasn't thinking of doing that, but I am thinking of doing definitely a book gift guide, because I have loads of updates this year. and I think I might do one maybe for watercolors and a separate one for pencil lovers or something like that. I'll see, because there are definitely things that I would highly recommend. Either that, or I might just do a favorites video and point you to there for gift ideas. Okay, so we've got that. For the eye, I actually enjoyed lately Smoke Blue, and also need it to be super sharp. So it's kind of, it's not a blue eye, it's not a gray eye. And with mine and my son's eyes, we often are asked, like, what color eyes do we have? Because people think it might be blue, but it's not actually blue. It's like a gray with a hint of blue depending on how the light is shining. So quite unique color, and I think this pencil is a very good representation of an eye color that's not very common. Face wise, I'm really happy, but I just think there's something that needs to be done in this area, but I usually can do that with some pencils, so going into it and adding a little bit more of something. So let's see, I've got this one here, terracotta. I'm just going to add a touch of terracotta here. And then use a little bit of the Mars orange to blend it out. Not sure I'm liking it, to be honest with you. Kind of creates that unnecessary opacity. So in that case, I'm just going to give something dark underneath the eye right here, just to saturate it a bit more, bring a bit more contrast, but without it being black, and then just blending it out a bit more. Remember, blending dark pencils on lighter backgrounds makes it even more difficult. So I think I'm going to use this pencil actually instead, because it's darker. Yeah, that works much more better on top of the other one. And then I'm just going to blend it out. In terms of her face, I think I might just go in with watercolor again. So I'm going to go into Quinacridone Gold Deep and just kind of add a touch more color here, like so. Just blend it into the forehead and also underneath. Just so it's not as red, but also I'm going to add a tiny bit of a kind of like a nose detail here, and maybe try and connect that to this area. So we'll see. Kind of dissolve this line now. So maybe if I try and set it with a hairdryer now, or not the hairdryer, but the air dryer. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to attempt it again. So I've got some color here in this dish. I'm just going to pick up some darker colors. At this point there is a mix of watercolors as well as some acrylic paints, so I don't know what's what. I'm just gonna kind of connect the eye here a little bit. And then on this side, I'm just going to soften it so slightly, but not dissolving the line fully. So like that. I might pick up some. Okay, we will leave it at that. And all I have to do now is her lips. I do always like to give her a little earring here. So let me show you what we have so far. I feel like I've been fuffing about with her nose too much. When I don't fuff about with it as much, I like it better. But anyway, we have too many lines here now. So I think I'm just gonna basically go and refresh what we had here, just like that, and leave it at that. So in terms of her hair, I'm gonna go back into raw sienna. No, actually I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into this color, which is Schmincke's Yellow Ochre. And then I find it such a fun color for illustrating blonde hair. So I'm just gonna add a little bit at the base, pull it out, add a bit more at the top, and then actually, because I still have some, just gonna do the same on these parts of the hair, and then just connect. And as always, I like to leave the white of the paper. That's probably as much as I would do. Then the rest I do once it dries with a bit of pencil, and that is it. For the lip, I will go for a watercolor. Let me actually tell you which colors I'm using, because I didn't really write them down on this swatch card here. So we use the Schmincke's Yellow Ochre here. Then we've used the quinacridone Deep Gold and Transparent Red Oxide on the face, and the Rhodonite, all by Daniel Smith, except for the Schmincke's Yellow Ochre. And now I'm going to go into Paraline Scarlet, which is my favorite red. Super intense, super gorgeous, like really sexy red. If there is such thing in watercolor, that is the color. It's just so like buttery and super, super gorgeous. There we go. That's her red lip. Now, what color shall we do her dress? That's always the question. Oftentimes I like to do a pencil, like use a pencil for the dress just to have it super opaque. Okay, so I think I will start with her pumps first, and that always is the dark indigo. And all I do is just fill in the pump. Sometimes I leave them as they are, sometimes I add a little bit of detail. I think in this case I want to connect it to the dress, and I decided to give her these big bows. And then I'm going to use this color for the dress, which I don't tend to do generally. I like to have a very solid, very poppy color, like you can see, something that really pops, or like a black. But today I'm going to connect the dress color to her eyes and to the detail on her shoes as well. And I think actually the grey works really beautifully with her red lipstick and her blonde hair. And in general, this tone works well with her skin tone as well. So, I quite like what I see. It works really well. And then I'm going to also fill in these ruffles. Make sure you have a really sharp point when you need to finish it close to her leg, so you don't end up covering it up. I just can't film any short videos. Like, I have no idea how people do it. I always have this intention of teaching and sharing techniques, and you just can't do that in a 10-minute video. I mean, unless I completely cut everything out and just give you these snippets of things. But it's not how the brain learns. Like, you have to see the entire process. I know that's how I learned. Okay, so I think she's looking rather sharp in this outfit. And I'm having a final look if I need to do anything at all. But I think I don't. Oh, actually chalker, that's it. I always add a chalker. Double or triple chalker works well for me. And then her hair, that needs to be also finalized, and for that I tend to use a couple of pencils. So I've got, what do I have here? This is Mars Orange, so it's a lovely kind of warm toned color, and I just add a little bit of detail into the bun area like so. It's super milky and buttery. The pencil works really well. Not doing much at all, just kind of highlighting the fact that there is a bun and adding a bit of shadowing to it, really. Like that. And then also sharpening it and adding a touch more on both ends here. And just like that. So there she is. I quite like how she came out, and I hope in this lighting you still can see how pretty she is. She always has a sass. And she was super easy to create with this posture, so if you don't want to experiment too much with different postures, although you totally can, then you can just focus on the dress or the hair or the face. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. It was a pleasure to finish the last page of the sketchbook together with you. And also, like I said, I'm super excited about two things, about the flip through of the sketchbook as well as Black Friday sale, which you can check out on alyonacreates.com. Thank you for watching once again. I'll see you soon.